back with another journey into real estate interview here with one of our amazing team members, Brenda Avery. And we're going to talk to her about her background, what led her to real estate, how things have been going, and all kinds of other stuff. And we'll see where the conversation takes us. So, Brenda, thanks for taking a few minutes out and talking story today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dylan.
So let's start from the beginning. Like, where are you from? What brought you to Hawaii? What led you into real estate? And, I'll jump in with questions along the way.
Okay, great. So I'm originally from San Diego, California. I was born and raised there, and I was there until I was about 25 or 26. And then I moved to New York City and spent a decade there. And then
Why?
Okay, so actually it does tie in with real estate.
Okay.
So funny enough, and you and I shared this in common. I worked for a governor, and when his term ended, I took that opportunity to kind of explore other things. It was my first job out of college, and I felt so grateful to have had that experience. But as you may know, you're just exposed to so many industries when you work in the executive office that I thought, the 20s or my 20s were the time to explore and to, take more of those career risks. And so a friend of mine, this was 2005, mind you, one of my best friends actually was an agent, a realtor in the LA area and was killing it. I mean, she had so much business. She was making mid six figures a year, and she was 24, 25. And I would go with her on open houses just for fun because I loved houses. And these, were $1 million properties that her parents were in the industry too. And so they would give her the lower ones, the $1 million listings. And so she saw me, I would go with her and she's like, oh, you're kind of good at this, and you're really like easy to talk to, and people find it's really easy to talk to you. And I was like, oh, thank you. But she goes, you should think about getting your license. And I was like, okay. And so I passed the California exam. And the same week that I passed the exam, I actually had gotten into a design school in New York City. And that had been sort of a dream of mine. It was kind of like not a Hail Mary, but just like this thing that I'd always liked fashion. And I thought, let's see if that'll pan out. And it did. And so I talked to her and my friend, and she goes, you know what, real estate's always going to be here. You have this opportunity to go really live like a dream, a real fun sort of adventure. And so I'd always wanted to live in New York City. And so that took me to New York. And
what is design school? Is that like a graduate program? Is that like a trade school? Like for those who have never, like I know nothing about design, right? I can barely match my clothes. So
yeah. So I got into Parsons School of Design, which is one of the world premier programs actually. And I really was looking at, I knew I wasn't going to be like a top level designer. I knew I was much better editor. And I really love the storytelling of fashion houses. And so I got into a postgraduate, I already had my bachelor's degree. And so I got into a postgraduate program, and I did it full time so that I could finish, in a year instead of spreading it out over a couple of years. And from there, I got right into the week of graduation, or the completion of my program. I got a job working PR for Dolce & Gabbana. And that was incredible because I was able to transfer so many of the skills I had developed, interesting enough, working for a governor and having worked on campaigns. It was just PR basically, and marketing, and really telling the story. So instead of telling a story of a governor or a candidate or an initiative, or policy, now I was telling the story of a designer or a fashion house or the season. So it was a really nice fit. I just, the doors open. I think, not to get too spiritual or whatever on that, but I think that for me, like my faith really had a lot to do with that, and just and confidence in knowing that I'm always going to land on my feet, and that no matter, the doors will open when you're ready, and when you're sort of in alignment with what you're called to do. And so I spent a decade doing that. I was 7 years in Manhattan, right in the city. And then the last 3 years, I moved out to the suburbs, out to Greenwich, Connecticut. And part of that was for the lifestyle, because I really missed being on the water. And so I had got in with a lovely yacht club there and was able to sail and compete, in races and regattas. And it just, I was a San Diego girl to begin with, at heart. Mm-hmm. And so just being able to be back on the water and that was just amazing. But every year I would get so sad when October came because it gets really cold. Yep. And now you're on a frozen, the Long Island Sound gets so cold. And so I realized again, I was just so happy where I was in terms of my career, but I was working, the 60, 70 hour work weeks. And I just thought, I don't know that this is the place I want to raise a family. And the work-life balance was really out of whack.
Or non-existent, right?
Non-existent, just, sleeping 5 hours a night. And I know some people can do that, but that's not my constitution. And so it was, but I was just going along because I thought that's what you're supposed to do in your late 20s, early 30s. And so that's, I was nervous, right, to leave a lucrative career where I was, externally, everyone would say you have everything you need, but so I made a decision to take a 1-year sabbatical. And I thought, I'm going to take this time but like me, I can't just go sit on a beach and do nothing for a year. Financially, I certainly couldn't do that either. But I had been practicing yoga since college. And I thought, well, what if I try for a yoga teacher training? Because again, in my mind, I can rationalize something if I can get some education out of it. And so I found a program here on the Big Island. And I came out for an intensive. So I was a month off the grid down at Hookena, and it changed my life. Being on the island was extraordinary. There was just something about being here. I had traveled to the island.
You came just for class, right? Like for the school.
For teacher training.
Yeah.
No vacation. And it was hard. I mean, we were up at 5 a.m. and we were busy with training and writing. I mean, it was an intensive until about 10 or 10:30 at night, every day for a month long, no break, no days off. And so that in and of itself was an adjustment. And again, living off the grid with screens and and the chickens and the cookies and the ocean. I mean, there was a lot to take in.
You got an immersive experience.
I got an immersive experience for sure. And there were some hard days. I'm not going to lie. There were some like breakdown moments where I was like, what am I doing? I don't need to be doing this. What am I doing? I'm used to having really nice clothes and really nice things. And now I'm like getting bit by mosquitoes and fighting chickens everywhere. So, but I think it's one of those things, just again, the personal journey you have to break down a little bit to be able to grow. It's almost, you have to get out of that shell. And it definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. And it strengthened my faith. It strengthened my ability in what I could do. And it really strengthened my faith in other people, and how much I wanted to help others. I think that was the thing that was difficult about what I was doing professionally for those last 10 years was I could volunteer, and I certainly volunteered with hospitals. I sat on boards, but my day-to-day really wasn't, it was making people feel good for sure, but it wasn't really making the impact that I thought I could help, and help others.
Wasn't improving their lives, right?
I didn't feel like I could try to convince myself that it was, oh, they got a new handbag or, and I don't want it to sound trite. It's a $1 billion industry,
but you're doing okay if you're buying Dolce & Gabbana.
Yeah. And at that point, I'd been working for a jeweler at that point. I mean, it was nuts. So I think that, I just really started to think about what is the legacy I want to leave behind, right? What is, I almost felt candidly that it was a slap in the face to God or the universe, however you want to look at it, if I didn't utilize the skills that I had been given, and if I didn't help improve other people's lives in a meaningful way.
New perspective.
Yeah, totally new perspective. And it wasn't, my yoga teacher will say, you know, you're not learning something new, you're just remembering what is in your heart. And so that was really, you know, one of those moments where, you know, I couldn't get on the plane when I had to go back.
So you decided during that 30 days that this is where you were going to be?
No, I decided on the way to the airport. So we went through Kona, because Hookena, for those of you who don't, I guess if we're talking to folks who aren't on the island, very different than Kona town or any other town on the island. And on the way to the airport, I just thought, wow, this is a town. This could be manageable. There's a Costco here. You know, there's stuff here. It's not, you don't have to live off the grid to live on the Big Island. You can, but you don't have to. And so I stayed one more night and at the courtyard. It doesn't matter. I stayed in town. And in the morning, because I had been on that 5 a.m. schedule, I woke up right at dawn and walked along the pier, and I saw the beautiful sun rising over Hualalai. There were dolphins in the bay, and I felt like I was the only person on earth. And it just felt this, I get teary-eyed thinking about it, because there was just this extraordinary feeling of, this is home now. And it doesn't matter what you need to do in the next few months, this will be your home. And
I just want to, inject there that, you know, I think that's a super important perspective. It's a very special story, but I don't think it's unique, right? There's so many people that have experienced that. And a lot of times people don't know how to talk about it or don't know how to explain it. And that's something that, you know, for someone like me that was born and raised here, we take for granted, right? I mean, we were blessed to be here and not have to leave, but I can relate to it. And then my mom is the same way. I mean, she came here in the 70s, you know, and then never left, because if you're drawn to the islands, you are. Like, it is what it is. It's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words, but people need to, I think that's important for people to understand that you know, there are people like you that you can talk to about this and have that shared experience, because it's such a special thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I think you're absolutely right, because I was kind of nervous to talk about it, because I felt like it was really woo-woo, and you know, it's like, oh, I don't want to, you know, again, I have a very analytical mind and analytical experience, you know, educational experience and background, and I was like taking this huge leap of faith. I mean, when I went back to Greenwich,
did you even have any friends here or anything?
No. I didn't know a soul. I obviously knew my yoga teacher, but again, lives really far away, and I was not going to have that lifestyle. But I will say this, Dylan, so I got on the plane, I went and saw my mom in San Diego on a layover. I shared my plan with her, and she was nervous. You know, moms get nervous because they're like, what are you doing? But my mom, you know, I could talk for hours about my mom's strength and resilience. And, you know, she left her home country to follow her dream of living in the United States. And so she understood how, when you have that feeling or that intention, and she saw when I went to New York, you know, she saw that, okay, this is just the next phase of my daughter's life. And she was incredibly supportive. And within, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks, you know, I had to sell my car. I had to do all those, you know, logistical things, get out of my apartment, everything. I was back on the island. I found a place to live within a week. I bought a new car. I mean, everything. I had work. I had income.
It all fell into place. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
It is. And I hear it all the time with people that, like you said, like with your mom, like it just aligns, and it's like a waterfall. Everything falls into place.
And the lesson here is, you cannot wait till the time is right and everything is perfect, right? People, they don't take action because they don't feel like they're ready, or everything's prepared, or everything's right, and there's a plan. And sometimes you just got to do it and have faith that it's going to work out.
100%. 100%. I apologize. I don't know who said this quote, or if it's just anonymous, but that idea that leap and your wings will will flourish, right? So you take that leap of faith and you find midair, oh, I have the wings, I have the capability. You know, it happens in nature all the time. Birds fall out of the nest all the time, right? We have to take that leap of faith and know that we are resilient and that we are strong. And I thought, what's the worst that's going to happen? Okay, I go there for a couple months.
Doesn't work out. You can always.
It doesn't work out. What am I going to do? I mean, I live in America. Like we have so many opportunities here. We're so fortunate to live in this country. I think that, it wasn't like this idea of failure is not an option. It was just, I'm going to be okay regardless. But yeah, so that's how I ended up here. And then just briefly, again, within a week, I did know someone from the yoga teacher training who was a snowbird. So they didn't live here, but they were in my yoga teacher training. They were from the East. They lived in the East Coast as well. And they had said, you might like canoe paddling because you like being on the water. And so they said, just come join us one day. And it was a rec club, it was a rec club at the time. And I didn't. I was like, this is amazing. What is this? All these ladies get together and they, and then one of the club members said, oh, you might like racing, and so I was like, oh, and that was really a godsend because I was able to meet so many, women, because I was on a women's team, but so many women, especially, women who'd grown up here as well. And really the way they embraced me and they didn't treat me as I was a foreigner, because I was nervous about that, not being from here. And it was wonderful, and then I met my partner from that later on, and everything just aligned in terms of lifestyle. Yeah.
Right. And acceptance is great to hear about, because I think that's a very misconstrued or misadvertised stereotype about Hawaii, that if you're not from here, you're not going to be accepted, or people are going to treat you badly. And I'm sure there's lots of online stories, but that is by far the minority, not the majority of experiences, right? So it's good to hear you say that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I also think too, you have to come with a sense of humility. I think it would have been ezy for me to come and say, oh, I know better because I'm from the mainland and I've had all this experience, right, and I can check all these, I'm not better educated, but I'm educated in certain ways. And, that just, you cannot, no one wants that in anyone's house, wherever you're from. Yeah. No matter where you're from, you don't go to someone else's home and act like you own the place.
Right.
So I think that helped too.
Yeah. Aloha's in your heart, not in your skin color, right? Or your race,
right?
I
love that.
Yeah.
I
tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're here and everything's working out, and then what makes you think, okay, now it's time to revisit real estate?
Yeah. So a good friend of mine from paddling, I just saw quite a few ladies in paddling that were real estate agents or were working in some form of real estate, at timeshares or whatever. And they just seemed to have a lot of freedom. And I thought, oh my goodness, this could be for me, because again, I was fortunate. I came in, coincidentally happened to work for a luxury realtor who really, they found me through a headhunter actually, because of my experience in New York, which again, this is how everything aligns, right? Because I had that experience, this headhunter found me. I worked for this realtor in-house doing his marketing, his branding, his PR. And I realized I'm kind of falling into the same patterns or whatever. So I'm not sure that I want to do this for a living. But it was kind of in the back of my mind, like maybe, this was, I think 2016, and the yoga, at the same time, my yoga teacher training was proving to be fruitful. And I started working, for some clinics here and was building a good life, but I didn't have the freedom, right? The freedom of my schedule, everything. I had to ask for permission for everything, right? If I take a day off, if I'm not feeling well, if I want to go on vacation. And that's the give and take of being an employee or being an independent contractor and building your own business or being an entrepreneur. And so my friend Carrie Bloss, who was my sponsor at EXP, I saw her in how she was managing her life. you know, and I thought, wow, like she's able to be a mom full time. She's able to generate revenue for her household. She can, you know, she picks up her kids from school every day. I hope she's okay with me saying that. And I just thought that's what I want. I want to be available for my family because that's really important to me. That's what it's all about, you know, being able to be available. And then having the freedom in terms of, you know, the other thing too, to be candid, when you're working for a salary, that's your salary. And it's very difficult, you know, again, you're asking for permission for a raise. You're asking for permission for a bonus. And I thought, my goodness, what if you didn't have to do that? What if you could? I know you're laughing because it's like, duh, you know, but that was.
No, it's not stated though. You know, that's the thing.
Not.
That's a big thing that people just take for granted is like they just want a job that pays them okay, but they're totally limited in the potential, right?
Yeah.
If you work a little bit harder than everybody else at your level is going to get paid the same, right? So.
Well, you get comfortable, right? You get comfortable and you say, I'm comfortable. And that's almost a little bit dangerous because then you can't get to that next level because you're just, you're comfortable. You know, your bills are paid, your mortgage is paid, you know, all those things. And again, that's a wonderful place to be, right? You're not living paycheck to paycheck, but it only can go so far, right? That doesn't really lead to freedom. And so I looked at my mom, you know, she's an entrepreneur but the interesting thing is the way she's been able to generate wealth and security is through real estate. And I thought, okay, I passed the California exam in 2005. You know, kept, you know, saying, sis, whenever you're ready, we're here. And so I got in a really great in-person class, passed my exam, and then I couldn't pull the trigger.
I remember.
Yeah. And Dylan, I would have wonderful talks with you and you're just like, I'm here when you're ready. But, you know, and I remember Andrew telling me, I wish I would have done it sooner. That's all he would ever say. You know, he'd say, I wish I would have done it sooner. So I was coming up on the 2-year, right? If you don't activate your license within 2 years of taking the exam, you have to take it again. And I thought, I am not taking that thing again. I passed on the first time. That was fine, but it wasn't the easiest exam. I mean, it's just another exam that you have to study for and you have to stress about and study for. And I just thought, I spent, you know, considerable, you know, about $1,000 to do the program, you know, and I'm like, I'm not going to, no, I'm going to sign up. But when I made that decision in my head, I had to think about who I wanted, because there were other brokers that I had brokerages that I'd considered, and other folks that had reached, you know, had talked story with me. And I just remember thinking, where do I feel confident going one person had told me in particular, said, go where you know you will have the support you need and there is someone there to train you. And when you say, who is that person? They have a name. It's not like, oh, we have someone. No, they actually can identify the person. And that was you guys. I mean, hands down, I knew that I trusted my mentor or my sponsor, Carrie. I knew that I'd had a couple conversations with you. I remember these were conversations in a parking lot, right? Like things that I'm on the phone doing other things and I'm having these moments and I'm like, every time I would talk to him, like, okay, it feels right. Okay, but I'm nervous, you know, how many leaps of faith am I supposed to take in my lifetime? You know, but every time you would tell me, you and Carrie would both tell me about, you know, your experience, but also the nitty gritty, right? We would go into detail about what it looks like, you know, and what my day would be like and the resources I would have. And that was so important to me that it really was just a no-brainer to come on board. And it's been amazing.
So tell us about that. Yes, because you finally jump in and you activate and you had an amazing first year, right? I mean,
oh my gosh,
comparative to most people.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the mark. I don't know. I get a little shy about it sometimes, right? Because I just feel so blessed and fortunate. But one of the wonderful things
but it's energy and intention. There's no luck.
Yeah,
There's no luck in this game. You know?
Yeah,
you see the sign. You see the sign on the wall. It says that the harder you work, the luckier you get.
That's true. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. One of the things you told me in my first month was set your goals, set your goal for the year. And I had a goal in mind. I had a monetary goal, sales goal, but I also had this idea that I think Andrew had said this, do you just want to hit that goal, or do you want to hit a breadth of transactions? And I thought, well, my goodness, I would rather have the breadth of transactions, because that's going to make me a better real estate professional. That's going to be better for my clients. If I can close land deals and homes and vacation properties and second homes and investment and even commercial, I mean, that to me was extraordinary. And we're not over with a year, so I still have a couple months, but I've hit 4 of my 5 goals already. And I'm hoping for that last one. I think I had 5 transactions in the first 5 months even. And I had, I mean, I can go back on the numbers, but it was, I wiped my brow, because I'm still amazed, I'm still amazed by it, frankly.
So on the goal setting, is that something that you've done in life in the past, or has it been a normal practice?
It's interesting, not for me personally. So okay. I've done it for businesses. I've done it for the companies I've worked for. I've done it as a consultant and as a strategist, but this was the first time that it was for my own business. Right. And so that was something and it's still something I'm working on, is I have this tremendous background in PR and marketing, but it's been so difficult for me to do it for myself, because I'm so used to supporting other people in that way. And I think one of the things you've helped me is with the reframing of, when I can put myself out there, I am helping my clients. I am offering offering the resource they need to help them fulfill their dreams.
That's a great way to look at it. Did I say that?
Well, somehow you've said that. Either you've said it or it came out from talking to you, but it's certainly been,
I like the interpretation,
because of you, right? Like, it has been because of my experience with you, for sure. Because otherwise, I'm just like, oh, I'm just doing this to promote it. It's not enough to say, oh, I'm just doing, it's not a big enough why.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, I think Misty, I think said this in her interview. It's not certainly I enjoy earning a living. This is how I earn a living. Right. So there's that part, but I don't focus on that. But I focus on, how am I of service to my current and future clients?
Yep.
And how can, especially for those
the income just comes, right? If you have the right intentions and the right spirit, it depends on what you focus on, but it's like the income is just the result of doing a good job and helping people. It's an amazing thing, right? Again, it sounds like it's like goal setting and everything else in the island. It sounds like hocus pocus, right? But it's a real thing, right? I mean, we could point to it over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's true. The goals are good for me because they keep my head down and they motivate me to get out of bed every day, right? They keep me busy. You don't want to be stagnant, and I'm pretty self-motivated. And so I like the structure that works for me to create a structure.
And you need a tangible thing, right? We as humans, we need a tangible thing that we're pointing towards or aiming for or whatever it is. And when there is no goal, there is no direction, right? Exactly. And we take that for granted sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it's that feedback loop. This was something I would always share with my patients and stress management clients was, we track your progress so that you can see how far you've come and really look back. Because when we're in it, we think we're taking these baby steps. It's almost like a snail's pace sometimes, or we can get discouraged. But when we look back and we say, wow, we hit our quarterly goals. We hit our 6-month goal. I closed a transaction I never thought I could do. Right. And that just gives you more confidence and more faith, really. And I think for me, it's knowing that I'm not alone in this process. I have not one day felt alone, and sometimes I'll feel I'm human.
It can be a lonely business.
It can be a lonely business,
have to be alone.
But you don't have to be alone, and the freedom is unbelievable. The financial freedom, the freedom over your time. I feel so much more productive, actually, because I'm more efficient with my time. I'm able to spend more time with my family. I'm able to be available to my clients when they need them 100%. I'm present. You know, I don't feel like I'm pulled in a million different directions and stuck in this overwhelmed loop. And again, I think
and if you get to that point, you have people you can turn to help relieve some of that pressure and take some of that on, right?
Yeah, and again, that's a testament to you and to EXP, is that you're helping me think about my business in those terms, right? It's not just me. How can I grow? How can I help others grow in this industry? How can I, you know, pay it forward in a sense?
So with that, what advice do you have to somebody who's on the fence or thinking about it, or, you know, waiting to make that leap of faith and
get involved? You know, every person's, first of all, I empathize with you and wherever you are in your journey, because it's hard to take a leap when you have to pay a mortgage, right? Or you're doing that. But and it's hard for me to talk about if you've started somewhere else, right? Because that wasn't my experience. You were my first brokerage. But I will say that if what's holding you back is the sense that you may not have all the tools, or you don't have the experience, or you feel like, why would they choose me when there's other agents out there, or why would I, you know, maybe I should just go where someone else that maybe has a different name or whatever. Don't come to us, because quite simply, you know, it's going to sound corny, but you and EXP have met me where I am, right? And that changes. Where I am today is not where I was 6 months ago, right? And you grow with me. And when I'm ready to grow, you're right there. Like, it's like a boost button, you know? It's like, you're ready, let's do it, you know?
I love it. That's a great characterization. I love that.
Yeah. And if you're not ready, we'll get you ready, you know? So that's where, I mean, I have yet to meet anyone on our team who regrets coming over. The support, the sort of like the emotional, I don't want to say emotional, but the human support, right? Because sometimes you think, oh, it's a cloud-based brokerage, right? Whatever. No, I mean, yes, it is, but there are people. There are us. There's you. There's my sponsor. There's mentors. There's so many others that are experienced and can help us and are willing to pick up their phone and talk to you. And I, now having spent a little bit more time in the industry, I know that's not normal. Right? I know that I've seen it.
That's a nice way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it where other agents, you know, they're somewhere for 5 or 6 years and just
struggle.
They struggle. And they're miserable, and they're really good agents, you know. They just don't have the tools or the support to help them.
Yeah. That is a great point, I think, to wrap it all up. Any closing thoughts?
I mean, I'm just so grateful for you. I'm grateful for our team. I'm grateful for my sponsor, Carrie.
Well, I'm grateful for you. You know, there are no leaders and there are no teams without people, right? So I'd never for a day take that for granted. So
yeah.
And you bring the perfect energy and spirit, and you know, that's again something that just goes back to the culture and, you know, being surrounding yourself with good people, right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and so where you raise our average. So I appreciate you having you with us and choosing us.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's a pleasure to be with our team.
If people want to reach out and get more information or talk to you directly, what's the best way?
You can always call me, 808-895-6370, or you can go to my website, BrendaAveryRealtor.com.
I love it. Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks, Dylan. Aloha.
Good day.